motocross, and I wanted him to join with us because Charlotte, our dear Charlotte, had a beautiful topic that she wanted us to venture into, and that is the topic of discipline. And Ryan here, he's a motocross champ in the United States. And yesterday we had an ecstatic program in downtown Nashville. They have a beautiful yoga studio called the Yoga Soul, run by Cindy and Steve. So we had a beautiful ecstatic yoga dance event. And everyone was just dancing their socks off. It was really nice. It got so hot, people were just taking off their clothes and just dancing like madmen. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. And so I wanted him on the call because, he went to the top of his game, and that takes a lot of discipline and hard work. So we're going to understand from that side materially what it takes to be successful. Oh, Nild. I'm sorry, I didn't recognize and acknowledge you. Thank you for joining us, Nild. And and most of you know that I have spent most of my life in spiritual discipline. So why not have two spectrums of discipline where he got to the top of his game and I'm still working on my spiritual discipline for the last 41 years. The same routine, keep going, pushing through. So I just wanted to briefly explain from a spiritual, just discipline in general, and then I'll hand it over to Ryan. Discipline, when we study in the wisdom text or the yoga text, we call it, there's two primary functions in discipline. One is, in general, one is that to have an education. Education creates a propulsion and an internal strength where you understand why you're doing what you're doing, whatever it may be. So it requires education, and we'll get into it a little bit more in detail. And then the second part of training. Training means repetition and facing every aspect of your being that you've been hiding and not facing up to. So that's where the training comes in. And that's where, the daily sadhana, we understand the word sadhana means where you do something daily to reprogram your habits to have a higher experience of spiritual consciousness. So we're going to have Ryan talk us through what is discipline in the material world that gets you to the top of your game. So Ryan, the floor is yours.
All right, here we go. So yes, I come from a different world, a world that is very extreme of motocross, probably the hardest sport in the world, most dangerous, considered the fittest athletes on earth. But what it does, it's almost like it's like a intense meditation, because things are happening so fast that the mind can't keep up with what's happening. So it becomes instinct, it becomes intuition. And that's how I feel life should be, is your instinct and your intuition, not by always thinking, debating, or judging if you're doing right or wrong. So the idea here is discipline. And with discipline in my sport, it's like you have to focus on the little things. The little things make the big things. The immediate makes the ultimate. Water your roots. And the roots, to me, to get anything done in life, from a relationship to a spiritual journey to being a professional athlete, a job, whatever it is the roots, which is discipline, consistency, fortitude, and passion. And if you reverse that, if I didn't have the passion, then I wouldn't have the fortitude, I wouldn't have the consistency, and I wouldn't have the discipline. And so I feel, and I teach, because I teach around the world with motocross, is always water your roots. Don't water the leaves, because the tree will die. Water the roots, because those roots are the same. You pull up any tree, all the roots look the same, but just the leaves are different. So we can go about so many things in our lives with the same approach and not have to think that just because I'm in a relationship or I'm going down a spiritual journey or I'm trying to be a professional athlete that I have to think or act or come to it with a different approach. It's the same thing. It's those basic things, those roots. It's the discipline, the consistency, the fortitude, and the passion. And so when you have that, then you can start to me, start push away all the, I guess, the things in life that can take you off your path, hold you up, challenge you. Because once you're in that mindset, you're kind of like, say, in the middle there. There is no up, there is no down, because you're loving what you're doing. You're so passionate about it that you forget about these things. And so that's been my goal in my life with the racing, my coaching, the same thing. And then also I've gone through a lot of injuries in my life. You know, I've been paralyzed 4 times and stuff like that. So I've had to come back from all these things. And how did I come back? I never went to a PT. I never went physical therapy. I did it on my own. And it was by little things, just chipping away at it, chipping away at it, chipping away at it, and never allowing myself to, I guess, you know, get beat down. And whenever I do get beat down, the only thing I do is just say, hey, I give up. You take it. You take it. Just guide me, lead me, show me. You know, I put myself in this situation, so I'm not asking for your forgiveness or your help. Just guide me out of this. And, you know, I've come out of some situations with kind of flying colors, and only by focusing on the little things and tuning into myself. That's the biggest thing is, you know, everybody I feel is too focused on what everybody else is doing, what everybody else is going to think, what everybody else is going to feel about them. And, you know, I think that that's fictitious because you don't even know what people are thinking or saying, but then you're programming yourself off that. And then that can hold you back and take you away from those roots, start get you into the leaves, you know, wanting to water the leaves, but those things are just flapping in the wind. You know, they have they're aimlessly, right? The roots are stuck. And so for me, that's like I say, it's the biggest thing. Like even to make a meal, you start with the bowl, then you put one ingredient, another ingredient, another ingredient, another ingredient, and then you have a masterpiece. You have a great meal. So you know, for me, it's pretty simple that way, but it takes a certain type of person to be able to wake up every day, to be able to push away those things, to be able to stand up to those challenges and know that you're doing it for yourself. You're doing it out of passion. If you have passion, if you have love for what you're doing, then there is no highs and lows, I feel. You know, I really do. So.
So beautiful. So in spiritual discipline, that's you see what it takes to be to get to the top in the material world. In spiritual discipline, we use this very simple method of education and training. Now, within education, we emphasize a lot on having proper data, proper spiritual information. So that means asking yourself the question, what is the intent, number one? In spiritual discipline, you have to ask, why are you doing this? The why questions are very, very critical because why questions are the questions of the heart. So if you don't understand why you should do something, then you'll get stuck with whatever it is that you're doing. So in this why question, we ask, what is our purpose? The second question. And you'll realize when you ask this why question and what question, what is the purpose of whatever it is that I'm trying to achieve in life? It leads you into this deep inner work, which we called, you know, the art of self-realization, realizing the self. And that is giving you deeper and deeper sense of knowledge. And the third aspect of it is that it requires one to have a teacher or a guide that helps you to make sure that your intent is right and that your purpose, that you are pursuing something spiritual, that it has proper foundations, and making sure that there's proper knowledge to back up whatever it is that you're trying to achieve in life. They say that in spirituality, they say that if whatever it is that you do, if there isn't proper data or spiritual information as to why you do it, it's hard to sustain. And at some point, the enthusiasm dies and you fall back into different other habits. So these questions are tremendously vital for any kind of spiritual pursuit. So that's stage one, which is education. Within education, we're talking about the intent, the why question, and then the what question. What is my purpose in doing whatever it is that I'm trying to pursue? And the third is that it is important to have a guide. Just like, Ryan, he is now teaching motocross all around the world. It's because he has been to the top, so now he can teach people how to get to the top. If you try to teach something, if you haven't made it to the top, then sometimes what you may be teaching is something where people may get stuck because they will end up at some crossroads that they want to know how to overcome and how to cross those barriers. And also in spiritual discipline, sometimes it is discipline in general, people think it's a punishment, like when a kid does something wrong. It's a punishment. But in spirituality, we don't see discipline as a punishment. We see how to make things better, where people are able to make better choices in life. That is what discipline is in spirituality. When we continuously help people to have more and more clarity in their lives so they can make better choices. And another thing that in spirituality we see this discipline is it's a new behavior that you adopt in your life, and new behavior not through fear. Most activities that we change in this life is because of fear. And so this fear is not the root cause or the factor that determines the change in your behavior and having a better discipline in your life. So this is something in spirituality, the discipline. Ryan, you want to add something more?
Yeah, I guess, the discipline with the spirituality is the same as being a racer. It's that waking up every day. It's that, opening that book. It's doing your yoga. It's doing your meditation. It's that again, those little things that keep you going. Having somebody that you can rely on, someone that can guide you when you are in these situations where there's some struggles. You have somebody, again, like better, where you can rest on. You know that he's going to bring you the right information. You trust his information, and that's the biggest thing I think in my sport, because it's so dangerous and difficult, is making sure you have the right person that's guiding you, the right person that's leading you, not just because everybody's using this person or this person's the most popular, but does he work for you? Because if it does not work for you, then it's not true. It doesn't mean what matter anybody wrote or anybody said, because we're all different and we all take in information different. We take in people's energy different. And so I connect with Veda very well, but maybe somebody else I wouldn't, even though they have the same message. So I think that's one big thing to keep you motivated and going down your road, is finding somebody that can keep you sharp, that you can really trust, that you can relax with. And then that'll open you up, because if you don't have that, you're going to start putting up walls, and then walls will take you away from your discipline, take you away from your consistency, and actually kind of, subdue that passion. I know we're not supposed to have passion, but then, okay, well, just the love for it, the zest for it, the fire for it, and whatever you want to call it. But you have to have that to be able to be interested every day. If you don't have that, you're not going to have that discipline. You're going to start, tomorrow I'll do it, or that consistency. And it starts to be 3-4 days that you do it, or you're not getting anywhere with your progress with your spirituality. So now there's fortitude. You have to fight through something. And so that's where I feel it. Don't start anything unless you love it. You're just wasting your time. You're absolutely wasting your time if you don't love it. If you're doing it for some other reasons, fictitious reasons, or because somebody else is doing it, or just because you think you need to do it, or you want everybody to look at you because you're this this spiritual yogi, well, you're gonna fall short. You know, you have to have that love for it, and then everything to me kind of, you know, falls away. The look, the persona, the all this stuff is just because you're so engaged in what you love to do, and that's life. You know, if you can find something like that, you're a blessed person, and something that can really grab you and take you through the years and take you through your life, to keep you motivated like that. To me, that's a blessing, absolute blessing. No matter what it is it tennis, golf, motocross, spirituality, raising children, a job, whatever just engages you in life, that is a blessing, because there's so much now that can just pull us out of that engagement. And then you just kind of wander around in this world wondering why everybody else looks like they're having so much better life or more fun or more successful, and it's not really the truth.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Ryan. And in spirituality, some of the principles you'll notice it's very similar, because discipline in general has the similar components, but sometimes the reason, the intent behind the action just varies. So in our spiritual discipline, first is the education, second part is the training. And you'll notice that training means something that is done repeatedly. It's not just once, not just twice. It happens every single day. And it goes to another level. In yoga, there is a term called dina charya. Dina means day, acharya means one who regulates their day. So that means each and every day, in each and every hour and moment of your time, is properly regulated and is a conscious act, and it's a mindful act. So this is where, in training, repetition is a big part of it. And why is repetition such a big part of our daily sadhana or discipline? It explains in one of these wisdom texts called Ishopanishad, or the Nectar of Instruction. And the first text in Sanskrit, the sage explains that Vacha Vegam Manasaha Krodha Vegam Jiva Vegam Udarupastha Vegam, which is in Sanskrit. I'm speaking tongues right now. But I just wanted you to hear what Sanskrit sounds like. But the point is Vacha Vegam, the urge of speech. Just a simple example, right? The urge to speak, the mouth that verbalizes the words. It is an urge and something that tells you have to say something. When someone says you're not pretty, you have to say something. Or someone makes a comment about something, you have to say something. The need to always say something, it is a function of the mind and the senses that is forcing you to say something even though there is no need for it. So it is an urge of speech. So it explains that in spiritual discipline, there's no need to speak, because most communication can be done with minimal pollution to this planet. Every time we use a word that comes out of our mouth, we think that it just affects that person, but it actually affects the ether, and it goes around. And as we all know, the world is cyclic. It goes a full circle and comes back. And it is explained that this urge of speech, when we speak, when we don't need to speak, it is called prajalpa. Prajalpa means it's like a frog in the rainy seasons. It croaks. In India, it's very common. The frog croaks. That's how the snakes know where to find the frog, where to find their meals. So prajalpa, or gossip, is just like that, where you're destroying your own consciousness by letting those sound that is not suitable, that is not conducive to others' growth and your own spiritual growth, that it pollutes your own consciousness, causing destruction to yourself, because your peace is completely destroyed. So this is why in spiritual practices there is a lot of emphasis on repetition. And discipline in spiritual practices encompasses the spiritual discipline, mental discipline, and physical discipline. Now, Ryan knows very well that mental discipline and physical discipline are a big part of success in his field, Ryan, am I?
Yeah, and I was gonna make a point that, you don't sometimes have to go down the spiritual realm to experience this no mind, this God sense, this whatever. There's a documentary, I don't know if few people know Ayrton Senna. Ayrton Senna was a Formula One driver, and there was a race at Monaco, and it was really wet. And he came from dead last and won, and that's almost impossible at Monaco. And at the end of the race, everybody was blown away, and he said that he was so fine-tuned, so focused, so in the moment, in that present moment, that he said he sensed the he sensed God. So that's what motocross does. That's what that high level, that speed is like. Like I said before, your mind can't keep up with how fast motocross is happening, so it becomes a meditation. That's that you become silent. And that's why it's so addictive, and that's why it was so addictive to me. And even now, if I get on a motorcycle, I could be in turmoil in my head. I get on a motorcycle and ride down the road, boom, instantly I'm in this present moment. So sometimes a meditation maybe isn't what works for people. Is more of an active movement to get them into it, and or something that is challenging them so much where there's such a consequence that they do shut off, that they become into this flow. And you've heard that from so many athletes and so many different people around the world, is that when you get into this flow state, and that is kind of what we get into almost every time we ride a motorcycle, is into this flow state. We don't recognize it, that maybe it's meditation, but it kind of is, because everything becomes a feeling. Everything is a feeling, because if I'm thinking what I'm doing, I'm either ahead of it, behind it, or somewhere around it. Because you can't think of anything right now. But if I'm feeling everything, well, then I'm feeling everything that's happening at this moment, not ahead, not behind, or around. And that's what I feel in life, that we got to stop being these thinkers. We're always thinking we're this, and thinking we're so smart, and thinking that. How about learn to feel? Learn to feel what feels good, feel the direction, feel what people are saying, feel the things that you're doing in life. And that brings me back to this moment all the time, is when I learn to feel. If I'm having stress, okay, feel my feet walking or stepping, feel if I can't sleep at night and my mind's wandering, then I go through like a meditation with just breathing, but I'm just breathing, and just turning my mind off. It's putting that gap in there. And so my biggest thing always when I lose myself is come back to whatever, like a sensation, a feeling of whatever it is: eating my food, walking, sleeping in my bed, taking a shower, exercising, doing yoga, and watching the drip come off or the stream come off my nose of sweat. So those things are very, very important. Even in yoga, standing postures, I focus on my little toe, and that's all I focus on, that little toe. So I feel when you bring that into life and you take these big obligations out, then you start getting places quicker, and that takes discipline, because everybody wants that pill, everybody wants that magic word, everybody wants that magic road, and you gotta dig for that that piece of gold. You gotta dig that road for yourself, and then it becomes magical, because you dug it. Nobody else did.
Beautiful. So, very similar. He's saying how, in motocross, you attain a space of calm because you realize that everything that's happening, you have put all the effort into it, and then there is an element of divine intervention that happens in our lives. So this is very much emphasized in the spiritual practices of inner happiness and inner joy and inner contentment. So when we have the spiritual discipline that can sustain us through whatever it is that we're going through, there can be a lot of shortcomings physically, but your consciousness is such that there is such content in your life that the physical difficulties and shortcomings become very minuscule. For example, there's many sages we know in the wisdom text we study. The sage, some of you know Ramana Maharshi. I sometimes talk about him. He lived hundreds of years ago. And interesting thing, through his spiritual practice, discipline, his consciousness was so evolved that, part of his body was not functioning at all because, it was just decaying. And they asked him, aren't you feeling the pain? How are you tolerating this pain? But his consciousness was so evolved that the body was doing its thing, and his consciousness, he was on a different dimension. So this is what happens in spiritual life. Through the regulated practice of sadhana, then we come to a stage of consciousness that the material activities that our bodies do, it's functioning as a completely separate part of you, and your consciousness is on a whole different level because you are experiencing inner joy, inner content, while the body is having its own struggles. So to be able to segregate the different dimensions of our existence in spirituality, we do a lot of discipline, physical discipline and mental discipline. And eventually it has this ability to give you access to the depths of yourself, where you're like, I don't have money. Fantastic. My life is material life. Everybody has left me. I'm alone living in the desert of California. That's great. No problems, So that is inner contentment, that you don't need things in the world to satisfy the need of the soul. The soul needs something that is very deep within oneself, and that requires daily spiritual sadhana, what we call it, daily spiritual practice. And it's small little things, such as, in our yoga practices, we know, to wake up before the sunrise. Something as simple as that, just to wake up before the sunrise. What that does, to align your biological clock to the circadian clock, and to just sync it, that in itself is a big part of spiritual discipline. Although it seems so simple, but just little things like that in our lives that makes a huge difference. Ryan, you want to share something?
Yeah, I had a train of thought, but then kind of lost it because listening to you. But yeah, what was I going to get to? But yeah, just like with sport, it's all that feeling part. It's being able to tune that out. And I'm sorry, I just completely lost my.
What about your land? Like talking about waking up with the sun. I mean, what are some things that you experience living alone out there, like on your land? You wake up with the sun.
Yeah.
You watch the sun, like gaze at the sun.
I guess the biggest thing is, how do you keep that spark in life? How do you keep that interest in life? And I always say, focus on the little things. You brush your teeth every day. Have you looked at and got the best toothbrush you could find? About the toothpaste, the best toothpaste. How about that coffee cup? Where did that coffee cup come from? Does it have any memory? Does it have anything in it? How about get the best coffee, the best creamer, the best this, the best sheets, whatever you can afford. But these everyday things that you do all the time, put some love into them, put some joy into them, allow those little things to bring a spark into your life, because life can get very monotonous. And sometimes the training to be an athlete can be monotonous. The spiritual journey can be monotonous. But how do you keep that spark in there? And I think those little things that you have to do every day can keep that spark in there and keep that interest in that journey that you're doing. Because yeah, it can get lonely by yourself. It can get very, kind of scary by yourself. But once you start to tune into yourself and you start to trust those, and you start to find that little spark in your own little life coming from yourself, well, then it's not so lonely anymore. You know, it's not so lonely because everybody's always looking for this next thing. If I get this, if I have that, if I'm with this person, then my life is going to change. But I always tell people, now what? Now what? When you get to this point, now what? When you become this person, now what? When you buy this, now what? There's going to be something else after that. You know, so that's the thing, is always trying to chase these big achievements or big, I guess, rewards. You know, you're always going to be let down. And once you get that big one, you're going to be let down. But if you always just keep your life very like sparks in it all the time by where you live, what you read, what you listen to, you know, even your bed, your pillow, your toothpaste, your, you know, that's how I work my life. Because living alone, completely alone out where I live, you have to find that joy somewhere. And nobody's coming to give it to me, and I can't buy it. So I have to create it myself. I have to create the joy in my life myself, and that is not by big extravagant things. It's just by every day waking up because I want to wake up. I can't wait to get up. I can't wait to feel that sun. I can't wait to get my special latte that I make. I can't wait to get in my ice bath, my sauna. I can't wait to walk my trails and listen to the birds and, you know, see the cactuses and watch the sun pop over the mountain. That's what keeps me, and that to me, that's God. You know, you're tuning into your own life. You're tuning into that, and when you can tune into your own life, you're tuning into God. To me, you know, you different, but that's my way.
Spot on. Yeah. See, in the wisdom text, when we were taught, there is a very interesting element to self-discipline. They say that in success, there's two components. One is an individual discipline, a three-dimensional discipline, and then there is divine intervention. When you make an effort, everything in the world is aligning itself to see how to help you to be successful. We're not talking humans, we're talking the spiritual energetic forces. So it takes an individual effort, and knowing that this universe is your parent, is part of your creation, is part of God's creation to assist us. This world, nature is not fighting against you. It's actually we fighting against nature. So what happens is, when you try to do something, everything in this world is aligned to your success. So individual effort creates a universal energetic force for your success. But that individual effort, that discipline is a must. Unless you make an effort, what do they say? Man proposes, God disposes, right? So this effort, we study in every yoga text, you will study this. They will teach you that you go ahead, you stay disciplined, you just keep pushing forward. Don't worry about the results, because it's going to come your way. Because the destiny, the way it works, is when you push the trigger of individual effort, and every single cell in your body, every single thought, every single emotion is geared towards a certain discipline to get to a certain goal, then the whole universe is corralling around you and embracing you and lifting you up for that success. And that's where I've noticed even Ryan mentions quite a lot whenever we talk, how in his sports, he's seeing God in his sports. He's experiencing silence. He's experiencing something that is happening that is not just human effort. And that's where we actually experience divine, when we actually try to do something and try to achieve something. And that ability in man, ability in humans, when you exercise that, then there's divine intervention. So that's something we study in all wisdom texts. So two principles: individual effort creates success because the divine is automatically there. But if you make no effort and just expect, God, please take care of me. I need a job. I'm sitting on my couch and, not filling in the applications, but, God, please, you got this, you can do it for me. And so whenever we get into that mode where we are calling ourselves the omniscience, we know everything, and God is omnipotent. We make a deal with God, like, you have the power. I know what I want. Why don't you just give me what I want? Well, I just sit on my couch and eat potato chips and watch TV. So this is not how this process works. Discipline means you actually have to do something, and then your reality will start to manifest because there is divine hand in your success. Ryan, what do you think about
I mean, that's the same thing. It's just you have to show up. So many people want to talk, and even we want to talk about what we're going to do, what we're going to say with this. But are you showing up? Show up, and then you've met halfway, right? So in my world, I don't come from a very spiritual, religious world, but it's like I'm tuned into the same thing, right? And in my world, God speaks to me in situations. It doesn't have a voice. It's situations. But it's up to me because I'm the only creature on earth, like all humans. We have free will. We can take that situation and let it progress our life, or let it kind of ruin our lives. And everybody's dealt with the same situations, and some people become masters from that situation, and some people become bums from that situation, right? And life is just like being parents. God is just like being parents. Is you're not going to give your kid the next challenge, the next lesson, until he passes this lesson. He's going to keep getting it and getting it and getting it until he passes it. Once you pass that lesson, then life, God gives you that next challenge, that next test, that next way to progress in yourself, or progress in your life, or progress in your spiritual path. But so for me, as I look at situations as God speaking to me, because I've had a lot of situations in my life of injury and things like that has really, really chipped my ego away. To be good at any sport, to be one of the best in the world, you have to have a massive ego. Sorry. But after that, what do you do with that when you're done racing? What do you do with that big ego when you're done? You can't do anything with it. So it just kept chipping me and just breaking me at the knees until, life humbled me so much that I just had to kind of put my hands up and just, all right, just leave me, just leave me, just leave me. And that's where I'm at right now, is I just kind of like, I just flow. I just flow with it and let the situations come and teach me. And if I pass those situations, I know, or those tests, I know there's going to be a reward. And then also there's another challenge, because that's all life is. If everybody comes down to this plane of earth and has, why did you come down here? What am I here for? I'm going to leave a legacy, all these things. And even when you're in these bad moments, like, why am I even here? Well, I think the first ingredient, the only ingredient, is we came down to learn. And that's the only thing we did. We turn our phone on, we learn. We talk to our mate, we learn. We go to the gym and do some exercise, we learn about ourselves. All we're doing is learning. We're learning from him, he's learning from me. And then what do you do with that? You take that and you grow. And if you can grow with it, then you share with it. And so that's the only reason I think we're down here, is to learn, to grow, to share, and we move on, because everything else you have to leave behind. That legacies you're leaving behind, that money you're leaving behind, that business you're leaving behind, that holy name that you got, you're leaving behind. So if everything's fictitious, it's what we're learning and growing with to move on, or to be able to share with this world.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, we have room for a few questions. Keshav, are you ready to give us the questions? We have 8 minutes. This is a very deep topic, I think we can cover a lot of territory.
Should go 8 extra minutes.
No, we cut off at 10. What are the questions, Keshav?
I don't see any. Ramananda says,
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Ramananda, is that a question you have?
Yes, Charlotte, please share.
Thank you, both of you. Thank you so much for your conversation that you were having between you and that you shared with us. for me, it was really amazing, like an amazing gift to listen to you, because that was exactly what I was looking for in my search to understand discipline and self-discipline better. It was really the connection between a more material discipline and a more spiritual discipline. So as you know, Vida, I'm like at the end of my PhD, and so I'm really in the writing aspect of it. So I'm doing political philosophy. So it's a lot about thinking, and at the same time, I'm also very much into deepening my sadhana practice. So I'm really committed, waking up really early, being tired because of that. But I'm really, really committed to both elements, to like the more material work element in my life and then the more spiritual one. So one of the things that I took from you both is that it's really also about controlling your mind and letting space for discipline and for divine intervention to arrive through discipline. I wonder, how can I nurture that, knowing that where I need to build more discipline is, for example, in thinking, in writing, in being in an activity where you need your mind. And that's something where I'm often lost in maintaining that discipline, because it is in an activity where you need to tap in to your mind, into your thinking, into your into mental construction. And then sometimes when I'm really in the zone, I can really creatively write, but it's also like I write political philosophy, so it's also really getting through systems and getting involved in deep thinking about that. And then sometimes you get lost and it's difficult to keep up the discipline to continue investigating. So I wondered if you have some thoughts on that, like how to because I don't know if it makes sense, but I cannot tap out of the mind because I need to tap into the mind to get where I need to get. But how to do that in a way that is not losing yourself. Does that make sense, my question?
Yeah. It's nice. Yesterday, were you there on the French call yesterday?
Yes, I was.
So I think you remember I mentioned there's a detailed prescription on how to balance. So if you look at dividing 24 hours into 3, 8, 8, 8, and when we talk about the spiritual aspect of the discipline, the 8 hours of that, and out of that we divided that 8 hours into two 4-hour compartments. And part of that 4-hour compartment is actually swadhyaya, or indulging in the study of the self. So if you make it where you document yourself, at such and such time, I'm going to be doing this, and you actually write it down, and you tell yourself, then your subconscious mind will remind you to do that. Just like when you have a program in the morning, and you want to wake up in the morning, and you went to bed late, and your alarm, you overslept your alarm, but if you tell your subconscious mind you have an event in the morning, you have to wake up, it says that the divine within you will actually wake you up. You may not even need an alarm. So this is how it works. You can try that. It's very important to write and tell yourself that this is what I'm going to do at this time. And once you have a plan, the probability of you doing it is very high. And that's what we discussed yesterday. You have to have a plan. You don't really need motivation to get anything done if you have a plan. So that's why in our yoga practice, the yoga of journaling is heavily emphasized, that you write your plan and what time, when, and for how long. And so you can actually execute it. Ryan, you want to add anything to it?
Yeah, I guess from my world, it's my mind, coming, you always got to do physical stuff, always having to do training. Everything that comes from it is kind of painful, as you know, as anybody does any physical stuff. And so a lot of my mind, tells me not to do it. I don't want to do it. That mind in there, it's just thinking itself. And there's a lot of times that I don't feel like doing it or want to have some excuse in my mind, but I allow my body to lead my mind. Like I just show up. Even though I don't want to be at yoga, even though I don't want to really get in this ice bath, I don't really care to go run these trails because it's going to hurt. Um, my body shows up and then my mind follows, right? My mind follows. And the same thing is even the other way around is like, maybe I'm feeling lazy, but I know I need to do something. Well, then my body will follow my mind. So with you, your thing is maybe that if your mind is kind of racing in the beginning, is maybe sit before you do your study in for just even a 10-minute meditation, let your mind go through all its junk. And then you can maybe come back to this present moment, more of your focus, right? Give your mind time to run around a little bit and then bring it back to this present moment. So instead of just getting right into something that maybe you're not really interested into doing at the moment, your mind's going to start being wandering around what I'd rather do, what I don't want to do, why am I doing this? And then you're completely out of this present moment. So give your mind a little bit of a chance to unwind itself. Then it can be in that moment, or you just follow your body by showing up, getting into it, and then your mind follows. Just like if I get into yoga and I'm not really caring to be there at the moment because my mind's on something else, or after about 20 minutes of doing this movement, my mind is now come back into me or kind of slowed down. So I was going to talk to somebody about doing training and their mind was battling them. I would say, well, just show up and just start doing it. Once you start doing it, then the mind starts to click in. Or, hey, give yourself a little chance to unwind everything, push everything out of you. If they're going through some tough times in their life and they're about ready to go practice, well, you don't want to be dealing with any relationship things or anything in life when you're going to go do something that you could die on, right? So it's like, hey, push all this stuff out, get it done. Because when you're at the track, you are the rider. You're not the boyfriend, you're not the girlfriend, you're not the husband, you're not the friend, you're not the anything. You are the racer, and that is it. So maybe have roles. If you're going to go into your study, go, I am the studier now. I'm not this, I'm bringing this role in. And then once you're done being that role of studying and focusing on what you are, you can pull yourself out of that and be that wandering mind or that, whatever it is. But I always say be roles, because that's my problem. My problem was I brought the motocrosser, the athlete into my family. And that was incorrect. I needed to have roles. I needed to be the athlete and then I needed to be the dad. But we kind of move these things in, so that could be something you could do, is just try to make it more fine-tuned that way where you become somebody different. I'm the studier, right? I'm the studier. And go through that process of letting your mind wander a little bit, also showing up, and then everything will start to click because you do have a love for it. You do have a love for it. And be grateful for it, be grateful that you found something that has grabbed you and that interests you and gives you that spark and gives you that love and gives you that passion every single day. That's a blessing,
Okay. So Charlotte, I hope that helped. And thank you so much, guys. We have used up our time.
Mhm.
And we are so happy that each and every one of you were able to join. And Lisa, it's so nice to see you join us. And welcome home. Welcome to the Heartspace.
Thank
And
you.
thank you all for joining us. Beautiful souls from all over the world. And we will reconvene. Please keep in mind that we do have a way for you to give us your topics that you would like us to discuss. And we'll discuss them on Heartspace. And for those of you who are following us on YouTube, if you send us questions, we will make a YouTube video just customized for you. Or on Instagram, that now that I'm starting to become hanging out with tech savvy people, we're putting out some content. So please don't hesitate to get back and talk to us about anything. Someone asked a question about some crazy questions, about spirituality and sexuality. And I was thinking, okay, it's going to be an interesting one. And we'll discuss it. Why not have a platform where we can discuss all these topics openly, and so that everyone can have a different perspective on how spirituality addresses this kind of issues. So, just keeping that space open for all of you to communicate back with us. And I'm so happy that Ryan's here. We're going to hang out. And, we plan to do things together. We're going to be coming to India. So, those of you who are coming to India, please keep in mind the clock is ticking. The tickets, the flights are cheaper if you book them in advance. And places are getting filled. There's a lot of people from Bulgaria who have already signed up and bought their tickets. Laura just messaged me this morning. She bought 5 tickets.
Wow.
Her mom and her dad, her husband and her child, they're all coming to India. So thank you all so much. It is an incredible honor to be with each and every one of you. And we also have Keshava and Kamania. They're coming from Switzerland. They're coming to India with us. So please join us. Let us go on this beautiful trip and connect and experience different realms of life. Thank you all very much. Namaste, everyone.